I mean, and this is an actual question. It's not rhetorical for the purposes of my sermon. What is church? If you had to define church, what would you say? Anybody want to try a definition of church?
We're the church.
We are the church.
We are the church.
Okay, so the people gather. We are the church. Anything else? Are we only people gathered?
We're the hands of God. We gather to renew our commitment to one another and to God.
Okay, so people gather together to be the hands of God, to renew our commitment to God and to each other. Okay, anything else that we think is church? Because I want to say, when people say, I'm quitting the church, they usually don't mean they're quitting the people. I mean, sometimes they do.
Right.
So, and when we say, I'm going to church, we kind of mean the building, often. But when we say, oh, I was at church today, we mean something else yet. It's a question of, what is the church? And if we were spending less time trying to divide the church because of our disagreements, and if we could spend a little more time wrestling with what we actually believe church is, these divisions might not seem so important to us. So here's another way to look at it. What does the church do? Right? What does the church do? There's a saying that always comes to my mind. Do you know some people who are so heavenly minded they're no earthly good?
Oh.
Right? If the church doesn't do anything, it's really not church. And I think Boris kind of got at the heart of it when she said, well, we're being the hands of God. So here's another way to look at it. Another common saying these days is people say things like, I'm spiritual but not religious. Has anybody here heard that? Any of your friends ever said that to you? Oh, I'm spiritual but not religious. I'm not going to ask you if you've ever said it, because all right. But here is the challenge with that. Spirituality has to do with what you believe. Okay, that is your relationship between you and God. Religion is what you do. What is the purpose of a belief in God that does not impact what you do?
Yes.
Spirituality without religion is like this touchy-feely, like I feel this thing, but I don't do anything. And in all of the ways that Jesus talked about church, it was never enough to just be. It's what you must do. Love one another as I have loved you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. Bear one another's burdens. Encourage one another as long as it is called today. See, church, it's not just how we are defined by this building. It is not just defined by our spirituality. It is not just our creeds. It is how we live out our faith. It's what we do with our faith. Church is deeper and broader and wider. It's who God is called to be. When Jesus stood before the disciples who were kind of arguing that day about who Jesus was, and don't we know that situation too? Because the church is sort of there now, right? We're kind of arguing about who Jesus is. That's part of the problem of this shift. So Jesus finally said to them, well, who do you say that I am? Right? Some of them were like, well, I don't know, John the Baptist maybe, you know. But Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church. See, it's not Peter that's the rock. It's that confession that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. That confession is the thing upon which the church is built. And when we want to be his people, when we want to be Christians, then we are seeking to be like Christ. And what Christ showed us was that the church is how we relate to one another. One day Jesus was preaching, and one of the disciples came up to him and said, "Hey, Jesus, your family's outside, your mother and your brothers and your sisters." And Jesus said, "Who is my family? Those who do the will of God." Not those who believe in God. Notice.
Mm-hmm.
Those who do the will of God. And that's true even when it's hard. When Jesus was there in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying so hard he was sweating blood, and he prayed. He said, "God, if there is any way that this cup could pass from me, and yet, not my will, but thy will be done." The church are the people who are doing the will of God. And Jesus described that will in one way and one way only: love. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. On this hang all the law and all the prophets. There is nothing in creation, that beautiful psalm of this morning, nothing in creation, nothing in worship, nothing in doctrine that should be about anything other than that. Because Jesus says all the rest is just words. It all comes down to that. It is why we cannot be spiritual but not religious and be Christian. Because Christian means we're trying to be like Christ. And Christ taught us that to follow him is to do church.
Yes.
It is what we do. There is room for a difference of belief, but we must do the will of God.
Yes.
We must feed the hungry, visit the sick, speak to the lonely, house the homeless, bind up the brokenhearted. These are the things that Jesus called us to. And as we look at that, what church is and what the church does, we find that we are right in line with what John Wesley taught. Way back in the beginning of the United Methodist Church, John Wesley got it. Piety, like religion, is another word that has been kind of maligned in our culture. People use forms of piety to criticize others, like, "You pious blank blank." But piety is another word for the religion that you believe and how you do it. So for John Wesley, what that meant when he was living in London was to create a program for children prisoners. Because at that time, there was no free school, there was no free services, there were no free meals. And so John Wesley, instead of buying hay to feed a horse for easy transport, gave up his horse so he did not need the hay, so that he could use the money to buy food for the children of prisoners. And the prisoners. Because at that time, prison didn't come with food. Prison was a place you got locked up and your family had to bring you food.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could catch a rat, and that's how many ate. The piety of John Wesley was methodical. He wrote it all down. That's why we know that it was the hay for the horse that paid for the food for the children. Because he kept very methodical journals. And part of the reason that he was so methodical in tracking it all was so that he knew he was doing all the good he could for as many people as he could, for as long as he ever could, for as much as he could. We should be known. We should be known as the people who are doing good in the world. We should not be known as the people who are threatening to split because we can't agree on who's allowed to love who. Our sole command is to love. We should be known for our love. We should be known for our love, our wonder, and our praise. Why am I moved to do these things for the hurting? Because I'm in awe of a God who loves us so much. That love of this amazing God, it is awe-inspiring. It is wonder-worthy. We were at a gallery yesterday in Mendocino, and we went to several art exhibits. And they had there is this photographic exhibit. What was the process called? Sublimation? I don't know. It was all words that I didn't know what they meant. The point is that these images were more brilliant than any photograph I have ever seen in my life. It reminded me of the first time I saw the photography of Ansel Adams. In Yosemite, how he caught the crispness of that majestic scene. And these photographs that we were looking at in the gallery, I've never seen anything like it. And I was just awe-struck. And I was standing there looking at it, and a man kind of came up to me and he said, I'm the artist if you want to ask any questions, but I won't bother you. And then he stepped away, and I just stood there still, looking at it, and finally I turned to him and I said, how? And he started to talk, and then I said, wait! Michael, come here, could you start again? See, that's how our experience of church should be. People should see what we're doing and they should say, how?
Yes.
And then we should start to say, well, because God is so amazing, and then they'd be like, wait a minute, hey, come listen to this. See, that's what it should be church in this world. And instead, we have poems like the one by Ann Weems that says, hey, I saw him, he said he was a Christian, and I vowed I would not be. We need to be that. Whatever those words are, I don't know what they mean. Kind of image in the world. That kind of beauty that strikes awe and wonder. And then that awe and wonder leads to praise. We praise the mighty God. We praise the Son. We praise the Spirit, three in one. We praise. We don't fight. We don't argue about our doctrine. We get filled with awe and wonder and praise. That's who we are, church. That's who we need to be. Because the people out there, they've never seen a picture like it. But it's our history. It's who we are. So one of the old church hymns that's always filled my heart in that way. Awe, wonder, love, praise. It's an old Swedish hymn. You might know it.
Yeah.
How great thou art. So, Boris says you don't like to stand so much when you sing. If you want to stay seated, you're welcome to. But if you want to stand, you're welcome to do that too. Let us sing together. Oh Lord my God. I hear the rolling thunder, not excluded. Some days that tastes sweet in the church. If that is your day today, take from the center of the loaf. It is easy and it is sweet, and you dip it in the cup and you taste it and it's good. But maybe that's not your day today. Take from the outside of the loaf. It's a little hard, and you have to work to get it off of the loaf. But then you dip it in the cup and it is sweet. Taste and see, church, that God is good.
All the time.
And there is room and strength for all. So I invite you, tear off a piece of the bread. Experience communion. This is the love of God.
Baby.